Hey guys, I'm LT.
And I'm Dan.
And welcome to BHK Outdoors, your beacon for all things outdoors. So grab a cup of coffee.
Or chaga.
And for the next 30 minutes, let's get out there. Hey guys, today's program is brought to you by Self Reliance Illustrated, teaching our youth and passing on the tribal knowledge. You can check it out at selfrelianceillustrated.com. There are e-versions available of the magazine as well as the print copies. They come out bi-monthly. A great source on self-reliance stuff just in general, and I think you'll have a real good time. If you get a chance to go there, check it out, pick up a copy, and give it a read. Well, guys, today we have a fantastic guest for you. One of our dear friends, Joe Flowers. He's from the state of North Carolina, and he is just an interesting guy all the way around. Dan and I have had the privilege of spending some time around the campfire with him, and he's just an exciting man, and we're going to talk to him today about all things outdoors. So welcome, Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
Hello, everybody.
And how are you, sir?
I am doing very well up here in the mountains of North Carolina, and how are you guys nestled in Ohio right now?
Pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty warm here, actually.
I can't wait for it to get warm. I really am not so good at cold weather.
Oh,
do you guys know why?
No.
Because there's no bugs out there. No reptiles like to hang out next to an igloo.
Well, that's one of the things that Dan and I like about winter camping is the fact that there is no bugs. And here you are, you want to go out in Bugville.
Yeah, I have a minor in concentration in entomology and a Bachelor of Science in Zoology from NC State. And that entomology degree study of bugs is really, really handy if you like bugs being in the outdoors, because, about the only bugs I really can't stand are mosquitoes. But everything else, if there's a bunch of ants crawling on me, I'm not like, oh my gosh, or something like that. But, I don't go and look on my list and think, oh, I want to get crawled on by ants or something like that. Right. But it definitely helps when you like bugs and you go into the outdoors.
Yeah, that would drive me crazy.
Absolutely.
Have you ever, all right, so there's a type of hut, a debris hut where you use a bunch of leaves piled on top of each other to insulate you inside a small shelter. Have you guys done one of those before?
I did one up in Maine, but there was no bugs. I did it with hemlock boughs.
Oh, wow. Well, I did that one time, and I didn't realize that I, put it right on top of a fire ant mound.
Well, how'd that work out for you?
It didn't do well. It became a debris. Well, it just became debris because I exploded right through the front of my hut and had to, that's not one of those experiences where entomology helped at all because you're still cursing at ants.
Is that one of those moments you kind of lay there and go, what's that? What?
Yeah. I get one, and then they send out a little signal for all the rest of the ants to bite, and all of a sudden I'm lit up like the 4th of July, and everybody's laughing at me, looking at me until they realize, oh, he's actually having an uncomfortable moment.
I guess so. Well, hey, Joe, how did you get interested in the outdoors?
Well, to tell you the truth, I've been into bugs and reptiles and amphibians ever since I was a kid. I lived in Florida. I've moved 7 times, but I lived in Florida, and I used to catch anoles, different type of, it's chameleons, more or less, people call them, down there, run around, try and catch alligators that were smaller than me. Never was successful at that age.
Were you afraid of the big
I've
ones?
always been into bugs and animals. And then one day I happened to rent the movie back in 1989 called Crocodile Dundee. And we're talking big knives, reptiles, outdoor survival skills, and all that. And I think that's one of the big things that kind of influenced me, the person I am today. So we could thank Crocodile Dundee, the movie.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. See, for Dan and I, it was kind of like Jeremiah Johnson, The Mountain Men, those kind of movies. So Crocodile Dundee.
Awesome. Hey, what's his name? He did the book Outdoor Living Skills. Larry Dean Olson.
Okay.
He was a consultant for Jeremiah Johnson.
Oh, very neat. I'll have to check out that book.
He is going to be at the Woodcraft Rendezvous in Idaho. That's coming up this summer.
Are you going to go out there?
I am. Morris Kahansky, he wrote a book. He wrote the Bible on bushcraft. He's going to be out there. A bunch of other very, very notable people are going to be out there. It's definitely a place. If there's people out west or people that can get out there, you should go out and check out.
Well, that's somebody that I'd like to see because R.W. Wilson, the guy we learned to make knives from, actually made the tomahawks in the movie Jeremiah Johnson. So that'd be cool for us to do that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's from what I've heard, he's a real nice guy. This Larry Dean Olson gentleman. You can check more if you Google Woodcraft
Hmm.
Symposium. You can find out more about what's going on there.
Oh, we'll have to definitely do that. That sounds great.
It's a big rendezvous.
Hey, Joe, if you were like, if someone was interested in bushcraft, I guess what kind of advice would you give somebody how to get started in doing it?
Well, I mean, with the explosion of the internet and all that stuff, there's been a bunch of different videos out on YouTube. Some pretty good, some not so good. But you can find a lot of information on YouTube and on the internet. But what I also really highly recommend is that people use their book sense and go out and buy books from notable people like Morris Kahansky and Larry Dean Olson, who also has an outdoor survival skills book. These books are fantastic. You can bring them out in the woods with you and just try stuff, and you don't have to go to the middle of nowhere to test, your outdoor skills. You can just do it in your backyard. I mean, you guys are talking about making coffee. It's fun to make a billy can out of an old bean can and use that to make your own coffee and drink some cowboy coffee right in the backyard.
That sounds pretty cool. Yeah. So when somebody says something like bushcraft to you, what exactly does that mean to you?
That's a big loaded question. I'll try my best to answer it. I'd say, I don't know, Dan Nelty, you can ask me if you kind of agree with this. It's not just, learning how to camp. It's kind of like learning how to do stuff over an extended period of time. Being comfortable in the outdoors and learning, applying ancient skills and older skills such as, trap making and hunting and tracking with a melding of new skills and relying on less stuff
Hmm.
and more on knowledge than actually just going out and camping.
I think you're right. I think one of the biggest things is just what you said, knowledge. You would be
Hmm.
surprised. The more knowledge you have, the less gear you carry.
Also, the less fear you have too of being out there in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You get more comfortable being outdoors and thinking, oh, it's not like dreaded.
Right.
I have to stay the night out in a tarp. It's like, all right, I get to stay out the night in a tarp. I'm going to try this fire out, and, try this and that and this and that. And it's a lot of ingenuity, and it starts a different gear set in your mind where you start learning how to put things together and making stuff work for you instead of having to depend on the latest and greatest gear.
Right.
Yeah, we learned that in Maine because when we were up there, we spent the night out, and I put a lot of the fears I had about being alone in the Maine woods to rest. So that was pretty cool.
Yep. That was quite interesting. So as far as you mentioned the primitive skills and the modern skills, do you have a preference when you go out?
Yeah, well, I like practicing both. When I do primitive skills like flint napping or something like that, I generally do it in my backyard. I'm a knife nut, so I definitely can't just go out without a knife or something crazy like that, just
Right.
because that's the way I am. But I do like a lot of primitive skills and the fact of cord making and things along that line. And modern skills, of course, you'd bring cordage, string with you, rather than relying on the woods to make it. Sometimes I'll use primitive skills to take place in modern skills if I find like a really, really nice vine that's really pliable. I can't help but use it instead of a piece of parachute cord or something like that, just because it looks cool and it's fun to try that type of stuff. So it's good as long as you're comfortable where you're at. I mean, some places I know primitive skills just wouldn't work.
Yeah,
Right.
There's nothing around to use as far as like a resource. So you definitely want to make sure you bring items out of your kit with you.
yeah, I'm a paracord guy. I'm not real good at making cordage in the woods, but I also understand that you're a writer. Is that correct, Joe?
Yep, yep. I have been known to put words together to make sentences. I don't know how I became a writer because I never was good at grammar or anything in high school, and I really feel bad for my editors because they have to edit the crud out of my articles. But yeah, I write for a few different magazines. One of them you guys may know. It's some weird magazine called Self Reliance Illustrated.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, yeah, it's a nice racket to work for. Also, Tactical Knives, a couple of other ones. I used to write for Backpacker Magazine, um, Survival Quarterly, SWAT Magazine, Backwoodsman every once in a while. But those two are my most consistent ones, Self Reliance Illustrated and Knives, Tactical Knives.
That sounds good. You had mentioned that you were a knife nut earlier. I've heard through the grapevine that you're also a knife designer. Is that true?
Yep, yep. I drew a lot with crayons when I was little, and some of these crayon drawings actually resemble knives. So I tried to keep going with that, and every once in a while, I'm able to design a pretty good knife. I designed for two different companies, Condor Knife and Tool and Tops Knives. Condor's got a bunch of new knives out right now this year that are more in the machete area. I absolutely love machetes, and there's not a lot really known about them, so I'm always trying to get new knowledge. And through that relationship, I kind of butted with the company down in El Salvador called Imicasa, which consequently makes machetes and is the owner of Condor Knife and Tool.
Okay.
So I started designing for them, and felt pretty good about it, and it's gone from there. It's been real great, and I've worked for a couple of custom knife makers too, and it's been really fun. It's really neat trying to figure out, all the new ways of designing something that's, over 2 million or 2,000, 5,000 years old.
Oh yeah, that's the oldest tool known to man, and it just keeps getting updated all the time. That is fantastic. So
Yeah, I have a sign on my property. Nobody allowed on the property without a knife.
that's a good sign.
My buddy Steve Watts from the Shield Museum gave me that idea. He has it up on his little primitive skills area, where he teaches Aboriginal and primitive and classic camping skills.
Wow.
It's real cool. That's one of my mentors. I call him my mentor. He probably doesn't like me to call him that. But Steve Watts, he was the guy responsible for the stuff you saw in Castaway, the movie.
Uh-huh.
And Wilson.
Right.
He put his mind up for that. He was helping out with the design for Wilson, the tennis ball, or the volleyball that talks to
Oh, I love Wilson.
mind. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty interesting.
I had one of those little Wilson bobby things that fits on top of your antenna. Somebody stole it the other week. You know how hard it is to try and find one of those again?
Hey guys, just a quick reminder, today's show is brought to you by Self Reliance Illustrated, teaching our youth and passing on the tribal knowledge. If you get an opportunity, go over and check selfrelianceillustrated.com out. They have the print version there as well as the e-copy. It comes out bi-monthly. Also, Self Reliance Illustrated Facebook page, which now has its own forum up there, where if you were, Joe was mentioned earlier about bushcraft, one of the places to learn a lot of knowledge is on the forums. You get the opportunity to ask a bunch of people different questions that you might have, and a lot of people around the U.S. and around the world can chime in with their ideas and thoughts. So check that out at the Self Reliance Facebook.
One of the questions some of you guys trying to get into bushcraft may have is, what kind of knife should I get before I start bushcraft? And the answer is blind horse. Blind horse. That's it.
Well,
that's all you need to know.
We appreciate that, Joe.
That's kind words, Joe.
Done. Now you guys never have to worry about a knife again. Although if you get into bushcraft, I guarantee you'll be buying more than one knife.
That is kind of funny that way. You have this knife that you buy, which most knives, and in all reality, when you buy them, they're great knives and they would serve you well, but you just get this bug and it's like, I got to have that next thing. I got to have 10 of these. I don't know what that is.
Well, there's different applications for different design knives for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the differences that you would use in a knife design for the bush as opposed to the woods, Joe?
Well, for bushcraft, myself, I am really familiar and like a Scandinavian grind, which for our listeners, if you don't know this, it's a very big meaty bevel, a really big meaty edge on the knife that's at normally a 12-degree angle, and it's really easy to sharpen.
Mm-hmm.
This huge bevel means that it kind of works as a guide for sharpening a knife, and you'll see a lot of people getting into bushcraft will adapt that style. And that's a lot better for woodworking than some other knives out there. It's able to take more consistent curls off of wood for different types of projects that you're going to be doing, and that's what a lot of bushcraft is making different projects.
Right.
Other knives, a chopping knife, a larger knife. I think Blind Horse just came out with a toothpick, a large knife, didn't you guys?
Yes, we did. Yep.
And that one just has what kind of grind on it?
That's a saber, so it'll have the secondary convex.
Ah,
Yep.
okay. So he's just talked about a secondary convex. That means there's a little edge at the end there. And if you guys can imagine, kind of like a V shape in your mind, the listeners can. I can really well because I'm really creative and imagine stuff all the time. If you can imagine, at the very tip, there it kind of rounds off, and there's a little bit more steel behind the edge there than maybe like the V shape of a Scandinavian grind. So it's not going to chunk out as much if you're chopping with it and doing a lot of harsher, more abusive stuff with it. So if you're going to be doing a lot more chopping, you may want something with a less fragile edge, depending on the stuff that you're chopping or whatnot. Or if you miss a lot and go into the ground and hit a stone or something, it's not going to really, really hurt your edge nearly as much as it would for a more fragile edge, quote unquote, like a Scandi grind. That's not saying all Scandi ground edges are fragile too.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So now that we've covered the knife that we need, what are some of the favorite trail foods you like to eat?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm telling you guys knife stuff. It's kind of funny. You guys should be telling me knife stuff. Trail food, like food that I would find on the trail, or
Well,
food
either
that I would pack
just
with.
tell us what's some of your favorite foods to carry when you're out there on the trail, or some of the ones that you look for in the wild.
Definitely when I carry out on the trail, and I think every man listening can identify with this, is beef jerky. I try and
Absolutely.
make my own. I have my own hydrator. I can't cook dehydrator. I can't cook at all. I can't cook worth a snot. But it's really easy to make beef jerky, and it's really hard to screw beef jerky up.
So
I found that out
you make
quite a
your
few
own.
times. You can make it in your oven too. You don't have to have a dehydrator.
Okay. Now,
And normally when I go, I'll bring like 3 times as much beef jerky as a normal person would because I always just eat it until the entire bag is gone.
do you actually use beef, or do you have something else that you use as
Oh,
well?
I'll use venison. Well, I've only actually done it with beef and venison. I
Okay.
was going to try and start naming other things, but I haven't actually done it myself. I've eaten alligator jerky and apparently lion jerky. I don't know if it was really lion jerky or not,
Really?
but that's what the guy told me. And other stuff. You can make it out of all sorts of different types of
Yeah,
meat. You can't make it out of bugs, though.
well,
Nor would I want to.
yeah.
No.
Well, that brings us to the next question then. What is the weirdest thing you've eaten out there?
Well, I've definitely eaten bunch of different bugs. It's called entomophagy, the process of eating bugs. It could be like an entomophagous tribe out in South America. That means their chief type of food that they eat is bugs. I've eaten a bunch of bugs. The weirdest thing that I think I've ever eaten is a Taiwanese water beetle. And believe it or not, guys, this wasn't in the middle of the woods or anything like that. This was at a function in Raleigh, North Carolina called Bug Fest. And they have this
Are
thing
you kidding me?
called
There's a thing out there where people get together and eat
It's
bugs?
called Bug Fest.
No, well, yes, there is at Bug Fest, which gets like over 40,000 people a
You
year
gotta be
at
kidding
it.
me.
It's this thing that the Museum of Natural Science puts on in Raleigh, and they have Cafe Insecta, where you can go practice entomophagy, eating bugs. And they had Taiwanese water beetle salad, and it was actually really good. It was kind of crispy, but pretty good. My wife actually worked at the cafe with my father-in-law and them one year, serving the bugs to the public. They'll have like cupcakes with crickets on them and mealworm cookies.
Oh,
As far
yeah.
as out in the woods, definitely in the jungles of the Amazon in Peru, I ate a grub called a siru grub, and it tasted really nutty, peppery. But then they like pan fried it, and it tasted like an egg roll. Like if you can imagine like Chinese food and the consistency of an egg
Really?
roll, and it was really, really good. I ended up not sharing any.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, that's,
I ain't sure that'd be my list of favorite things to eat, but I don't know. You did
I-
talk me into eating a bug once down there in North Carolina, but that's the only time I've ever eaten a bug.
Yeah, they're a lot better when you cook them. I mean, it's kind of like raw meat versus cooked meat. I mean, or raw fish versus cooked fish, depending on how you prepare it. And also, if anybody ever wants to get into the practice of eating bugs, I do recommend cooking them first because there can be parasites that can travel. And also, soy sauce fixes everything.
Does it really?
it's always
Yes,
or
absolutely.
sirachi sauce.
So when you
Sriracha's
say
another
cook them,
one.
what are you talking about? In a frying pan or boil them? What are you doing to them?
everything you can do with meat, you can do with them. You can fry it, you can roast it, you can just saute it over the campfire like a shish kebab.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And I'm making you guys do this at PWIP
Okay.
next year. I just decided we're going to make the blind horse guys
Eat bugs.
eat more than one
Yippee.
bug. And not just a simple little grub that you can swallow, too. We're going to go find some best beetle
Well,
larvae
good.
or
You'll have
something.
to let my daughter try that because I'm going to have to be in Missouri at a different show, so I don't get to go to PWIP this year.
Yeah.
Oh, no! Does that mean LT's not coming either?
We're
yeah,
going to go
we
to
got-
the NRA thing.
Curse you guys. It's on the same weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
This is the NRA show where at?
This is in St. Louis. This is the biggie.
Oh,
Yep,
I see.
National Convention.
Okay. Well, I guess since it's for the NRA show,
Yeah.
we can let you slide.
Well, for this one time. Well, hey guys, if you'd like to see more about Joe eating bugs, if you pick up one of the back issues of Self Reliance Illustrated, there is an article in there Joe wrote on, I believe it was grubs. So it was an interesting article there. He talks about all the bugs in that particular one. So selfrelianceillustrated.com, you can check out some of the back issues, and there is a guide there or a table of contents, and you can find out what issue it is and pick that up and read a little bit more about that.
You can go get your grub on.
Absolutely.
It was great. While I was photographing that article, my wife just comes outside. She didn't know what I was doing. She saw what I was doing, looked at me, kind of stopped dead in her tracks, turned around, and walked inside.
Well, she probably knows better. She's just like, I just better leave him alone.
No,
Yeah,
she probably
she
was
just-
afraid that he was going to make her eat one.
Yeah, she's like, hey, come try
Yeah,
this.
that's why I think she was just saying, she made eye contact, but she's like, I'm not even going to start a conversation. Otherwise, I'm going to end up eating a best beetle larvae.
Yep.
Now, why would somebody do that, though? Why would somebody eat a bug? Well, they're really, really full of protein. And they're actually really, really good for you in that aspect. You can get some fat off of them, but they're really proteinaceous. When a bear is going after a beehive and knocks over my beehive in the backyard, the honey is just more or less a bonus. They're really going after the protein-packed grubs that are in there.
Okay.
Well, I
that's
didn't
pretty
know
interesting.
that.
I'm sure honey-based grubs probably taste good too. I'll let
So
you
if
know.
I shot the bear and he had honey on him, I'd be doing real good.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Just call me, Joe. You know I'll be there.
I haven't had any bear problems with my bees yet, but I do have bears around here, so I think it's just a matter of time.
Well, hey, Joe, I have heard about this Amazon 5000. I've seen some things on Facebook. What can you tell us about that?
Well, it's in the Amazon. Hey, if you guys couldn't guess, it's not anything to do with the bookseller. It's Amazon 5000 is a trip that a gentleman named Mickey Grossman is putting on, an expedition down in South America from across the entire South American continent at the widest points. So the widest part of the South American continent. And he's doing it to raise cancer awareness. He had video submissions for people he was accepting video submissions for people to come on certain legs of the journey, 10 to 15 day legs of the journey. I submitted a video that I worked really hard on, and I became a semifinalist. I couldn't believe it.
Well, congratulations.
To go on this Amazon expedition. It's a really, really good cause. And also, it gives me a chance to go in one of my favorite habitats in the world, the Amazon jungle, which I've only been in really once before. I've been in jungles before, but not the Amazon jungle regularly. So it's a chance to go to the Amazon jungle. It's to raise cancer awareness. You can find out more about it by going to the Facebook page, facebook.com/Amazon 5000. And please, listeners, please vote for me. Put I vote Joe Flowers on there because they're taking votes right now on the main page because I'm just a semifinalist along with 11 other eligible people to go on certain parts of the journey.
Well, I know I voted for you, Joe.
Yes, you did. I saw that. Thank you,
You're
Dan.
welcome.
Yeah, we tried to post it everywhere and get everybody to vote. So, yes, guys, please go and vote for Joe Flowers and get one of our buddies out there. And, I mean, he is, if out of anybody we know, he's the guy that belongs to go to that show because,
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't want to be in the jungle with anybody but Joe.
heck no, that would, yeah, that's,
Yeah, you say that now until I'm like, hey, let's go check out this really awesome, very extremely large and angry wasp colony out here, and I end up getting stung and giggling about it. You're
Well,
like,
that's
this
why I
guy's
want
crazy.
you to go because you'd be the one getting stung. I'm out of there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, you know what the cool part about the Amazon jungle is? It's like 550 cord is growing on every single tree. They have vines out there that are extremely strong that you can tie knots in. Not like just normal knots too, like real complicated knots and they hold.
Wow.
It's kind of an amazing thing.
Wow.
That sounds pretty weird, though. I didn't know that they would be able to tie tight knots with them. I just thought it would be loose things you could do with it.
That Amazon.
No, I mean, like our shelters, these things called swamp beds that are raised off the ground, we tied them just like 2 wraps with these pieces of cord and they'd hold our body weight off the ground.
Wow.
It's nuts.
Hey, before we get out of here, Joe, I do have one question that I'm dying to know. It's, what's your favorite Godzilla movie?
Oh, man. That's a loaded question, too. That's like asking me what my favorite knife is.
Is it really?
Let's see. Out of all 28 of the Godzilla movies, I would probably say Godzilla vs. Gigan is my favorite. Due to the awesome style that they shot the movie, the use of miniatures, and the fact that one of the monsters had a chainsaw on his chest.
Oh, my gosh. That's a lot of information.
I don't believe I seen that one.
I didn't know there were 28.
That's an oldie but a goodie. A new one, the last one was actually pretty interesting. It's called Godzilla Final Wars. It was kind of like it came out in 2004. It was supposed to be the last Godzilla movie, and it had like over 15 monsters in it too. So, woo! Nerd it up. Glad you guys asked that.
That's cool, Joe.
In case any of the listeners don't know, I have my other big hobby is Godzilla movies. So we got machetes, knives, bugs, and Godzilla movies.
Matter of fact, if you go out there on some of the bushcraft and knife forums, Joe actually goes by Joezilla on there. So if you see any posts on there from Joezilla, it's probably our buddy Joe.
Yeah.
Yep. You can go to my YouTube page too, Jeepzilla Joe, on the YouTube channels. And also, if you guys really want to find out more stuff about the stuff that I do in bushcraft, not just the forums, but equip2endure.com. Equip2, the number two, not the letter. Equip2endure.com. Because I've been working with them a lot recently, and Adam Francis of Equip to Endure has like over 500 videos on his YouTube page, has a really, really good page, website, equip2endure.com, with a whole bunch of different articles and stuff on it. It's a real little nice hub.
So you have a lot going on with them, it sounds like.
Yes, I do. It's busy, 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 man.
Wow.
It's really convenient. Being ADD, so not being able to focus on one thing at any given point in time for a long period of time, because that way I'll have lots of stuff to keep my time occupied.
Fantastic. Well, Joe, we want to thank you for spending time with us today and talking about some of the things you got going on and just answering some good old bushcraft questions with your expertise and many years of being in the woods. So thank you very much.
Gosh, well, this went by quick. We'll have to do this again. I'm sorry, guys. This was like barely even scraping the surface of interesting things and stuff to talk about.
Well, we'll definitely do it again. Guys, we want to be sure to check Joe out at equip2endure.com. They got a lot going on over there. And please join us every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on ESPN Canesbridge. For the very latest, be sure to like our BHK Outdoors Facebook page, or you can follow us on Twitter. If you'd like to ask Dan and I a question, or if you have a show idea, please email us at radio@bhkoutdoors.com. Well, thank you all for being with us, and remember to join us right here next Saturday for BHK Outdoors, your beacon for all things outdoors. And until then, I'm LT.
I'm Dan.
And may God bless all of you.